Promises made, promises kept. The Trump administration said it would release more UFO files, and today it did. We got more than 50 videos, 50 more videos, and dozens of files that were classified until now. The release includes statements from a high-level intelligence officer who says he and his crew were speechless after witnessing floating orbs like the one you're seeing on your screen right now. And then there's this, a mysterious object shot down by a U.S. fighter pilot over Lake Huron in Michigan. And then there's this spherical object seen going in and out of the water near a submarine. We're certainly getting to see the footage and documents that the public have longed to see, but some skeptics think the so-called deep state is still hanging on to the good stuff. Joining me now to react is the author of a fascinating new book called Evidence of the Extraordinary, Miguel Sancho. Great to see you, Miguel. Thanks for being here. So your thoughts on the new release?
I'm excited like any journalist is when there's a huge trove of documents to go through. I mean, it's just candy, right?
Yeah.
And I do think there is some actual, interesting evidence that is great cause for further investigative endeavor. As you mentioned, I think that account from the senior intelligence official from very recently, 2025, describing these orbs that formed a T formation that outran a helicopter. The narrative is very compelling. And that comes on the heels of, obviously, several mysterious drone incursions and other threats, I would say, to national security that we've seen at some of our more sensitive air bases, including Langley Air Base and most recently Blankenship. So it's, again, a nice thing to have to kind of help legitimize this form of inquiry. And it just, I, again, think that the Trump administration deserves some credit for really kind of helping move, however incrementally, the government's attitude towards this. I mean, I think there's always room to criticize that it's not enough, that, we didn't get the pony for Christmas. I get it. And I'm open to that criticism, by the way. I'm hospitable to the criticism. It should be heard. But when you compare where we are now to where the government has been for decades, actively encouraging Air Force investigators to dismiss these claims, shaming and threatening the careers of pilots who've wanted to come forward with this, and effectively kind of creating something of a dark age, as it's sometimes referred to in the UFO community, that spanned decades in the 80s and 90s, when ufology, if you want to call it that, was consigned to nothing but fringe science. We've come a long way there.
So you mentioned the national security implications of this. Clearly, that is a huge question. But when I watch these objects flying around military aircraft, one of them was shot down, but next to a submarine, it seems to me the government doesn't seem as concerned as maybe they should be. Maybe they're not letting that on. There's no real explanation about what these things are. What do you think that maybe some of them are, specifically the ones that you've seen so far?
So I always enter these conversations with the proviso that many things can be true at the same time. Some of these can be completely prosaic things like birds or balloons. Some of them can be completely unexplainable and potentially alien craft. Okay, let's not dismiss that.
But alien just means foreign, right? It doesn't necessarily mean extraterrestrial.
It could mean extraterrestrial. I don't want to foreclose on that possibility.
Yeah, no, me either.
I think, but I do believe that we need to take very seriously the possibility that some of these UAPs, as they're called, are assets of rival militaries that are tickling our air defense systems to see what their capabilities are, or conducting reconnaissance, or doing a trial run for a possible attack. Again, let's just kind of use our common sense here. We know, we read about it and we see about it every day in NewsNation, that drone warfare is the new paradigm.
Yes, it is.
The new kind of modus operandi for asymmetrical warfare, be it in Ukraine, be it in Iran. It's, Cuba's talking about getting into the game. Maybe they have already. And the U.S. is in the process of trying to catch up with the cheap, powerful, explosive drones and loitering munitions. So the fact that we're seeing these UAPs that might be something like that specifically around our military assets, it all kind of makes sense that some of these could indeed be Iranian or Russian or Syrian assets of some kind or another, or Chinese. Let's not forget about the Chinese.
Yeah, let's not forget about the Chinese. They certainly are at least trying to engage in this kind of effort. One of the pieces of footage getting a lot of attention is a UAP in Syria. You mentioned U.S. forces, of course, being surrounded by this stuff. And it's getting a lot of attention because it's moving so fast. I mean, the acceleration on this thing, it's sitting, and then all of a sudden it goes faster than we've seen anything before ever move. What do you make of that part of it?
So what you're seeing there are what the UFO community experts talk about as one of the 5 observables, and they include things like instantaneous acceleration way beyond anything that our known craft can do, inexplicable maneuvers, anti-gravity technology, the lack of any visible propulsion system, and what they call transmedium movement, meaning passing from air into water, things of that nature. And the kind of granddaddy of them all, the Nimitz Tic Tac, exhibited many of those properties. We're seeing some of that here, but are we really? This is one of those cases where you have to kind of understand what it is you're looking at a little bit. Right. And remember, this video, right, was uploaded by a user. It has been digitally enhanced. We don't know the chain of custody. I'm not saying it has been kind of manipulated for the purposes of fabrication. Yeah. And it definitely merits more study. But I will say this. I did note that on the website itself, the DOW website, when it's kind of ticking off the timeline, it says that at the moment when you see it go off, it says the sensor stops tracking the area of contrast, causing it to rapidly exit the right side of the frame. Okay. So it seems that the DOW is kind of telling you a little bit that it might be an effect of the camera rather than the object moving that way.
Well, I mean, I like looking at this stuff. It's very difficult, as you said, to determine what they are. A lot of these things look the same. It looks like a flying baked potato a lot of the time. So I'm hoping that we can get some better cameras so we can actually see some more detail of these things and get some more specifics. I think with all the money we spend on defense, we probably could do that. Miguel Sancho, thanks for joining us. Great to see you.
Always great to see you, Katie. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. And check out his book, Evidence of the Extraordinary. See you soon.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.